Hey, welcome to Kotlin Conversations, where we're having conversations with just some of the amazing speakers at Kotlin Conf 2023. My name is Huyen Tuet Dao, and I'm speaking with
Adrian.
Adrian, thank you so much for joining me. Let's just get started off with some basic questions like what do you do, and how did you get started with Kotlin? How did you become familiar with Kotlin?
So I'm currently a PhD in Leiden University, and actually I'm a social science PhD. So it has nothing to do with engineering, and so it's very special background. And actually before that, I was educated in physics, and I did research in gravitational waves, like fluctuation in space-time, things like that. Yeah. Yes, and so I come from physics to social science and to kind of engineering thingy.
That actually is really interesting because I'll let you kind of take the lead a little bit on this, but I now see how your project and your talk has combined all of these three things. So you were talking about, as you said, you were a social scientist, but the project that you're discussing here at Kotlin Conf kind of is combining, a lot of, again, your past all of these experiences. Can you kind of just very briefly describe, what is this project that you talked about for Kotlin Conf?
So basically, during the pandemic, I was kind of bored because something didn't run well for my PhD. So I tried to get something to do by myself, and because I'm staying at home, I'm alone, and so I decided to combine the things I know. I know some physics, I know some social modeling things, and I know because I don't have an engineering background, but I like contributing to open source software. So I know some programming techniques and things like that. So I decided to put all things together to create something cool. And the natural idea is the Interstellar social society thingy, because I'm always a big fan of science fiction or science fictional games, and I always feel like as a physicist, I'm not satisfied with the regularity of the games. They are just ignoring the physics. They are just doing their own things. So I try to implement the correct physics into the social model or the game, or that's the game. And so this is the idea behind the project that I presented here.
Oh, that's cool. So, I mean, I kind of what you're saying, and to get a little bit nerdy about it, for example, a lot of science fiction, they portray like Interstellar, faster than light travel in a very particular, maybe convenient way. But I think there was one show and book called Leviathan Expanse, right, where they kind of portray, more realistic, what might, faster than light travel be like, and that's what you're trying to portray is maybe more of a realistic, simulation of what these kind of, societies might be. Is that kind of sort of it? Just kind of actually create you're getting a simulation, right, of what of the interactions between interstellar societies would be like.
Yeah.
And what kind of I guess vectors, I guess, what kind of things are you simulating between
So this is a kind of it has two aspects. The first of that is this is being a framework, so it's a general framework for people to use to build society, interstellar society without having too much consideration into physics, because not all of us are physicists. So I try to help social scientists to build model based on that, and so it takes into account of special relativity, the time delay or time dilation when you're moving, the clock tick slower, and so people don't have to consider this kind of things. They can just plug the model in and then run the simulation. And this is the more academic part of the project. And the more gaming part of the project is that I feel it's cool to have a framework here, but it's even cooler to have a game on top of that. So I decided to throw all my ideas on how a society works into the game. We have the economy, we have the politics and technology and all kinds of things, and see how this works in this kind of settings.
I know this is a very complex question, and obviously as a social scientist, I'm trying to ask you to kind of paraphrase maybe something that you're actually researching. But I guess for us, especially as people that live, not with a lot of relativism in our daily lives, what would be some of the challenges in playing a game where, again, you're simulating interstellar travel? For example, what is something that is a challenge in a game like that, like that would involve these factors?
You mean as a player or as a developer?
As a player, for example.
So I think one of the major reasons why the big game developer or development company they don't consider this kind of thing is because there's a time delay. So if you play as a spaceship, let's say, and there's a big time delay, and you have to, if you want to interact with some other spaceship, say you have to wait for 10 turns for the signal to come back. And so this is something that can be annoying to play with, but at least for me, I think I enjoy this slow pace, waiting and just see how things work. Those kind of game styles. So I think this is a niche for some players.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. Kind of, it's almost like there's always that phrase about the medium being the message, and in a sense, the fact that you're bringing these kind of elements in, this more kind of like actual realistic challenges of communication is part of the gameplay, right? Because you have to play around that. And it kind of reminds me, I mean, I didn't play it myself, but kind of like Death Stranding, I think, there was this one game where, everyone said it was kind of like a delivery simulator, but that part of the gameplay is not that it's boring, but the boring parts of dealing with the practicalities of, what am I actually doing and how would I actually have to do it, right? So, I mean, in terms of like the coding, so you said that you don't have an engineering background. And to kind of bring it back to Kotlin, do you think Kotlin was just a good example, a good language for you to pick up? Because, I know I have an opinion that, it's easy to use, it's easy to pick up, it's a nice modern language. Was that something that you felt as someone who, as you say, doesn't have an engineering background?
Yep. So I actually this project is the reason why I use Kotlin. I don't have any experience before that, and I think I picked Kotlin. I didn't remember the exact reason, but like I have some other, like I can remember that, for example, like I as I said, I work on open source software, and when I try to fix a multi-threading bug for C++ project, it was so annoying. And I was kind of traumatized by how hard it is to debug something. And I feel like perhaps I should use something easier, and I want the game to work on Android, and Google said Android is for Kotlin. So I just use Kotlin for this.
I like that bridge, though, that it was more just like you felt comfortable with it, but then by entering into Kotlin, you kind of open up avenues for yourself, presumably maybe even iOS gaming, because there's Kotlin multi-platform mobile, but then of course desktop and things like that. So who knows? You might even just take over all the platforms at this point. It's fascinating. Like you went from physics to like social science. So in terms of like you're a PhD candidate right now. What do you foresee after you've finished your PhD? Where do you see like taking all of your different academic backgrounds? Like as a social scientist, what would you, for someone who is an engineer and kind of very unfamiliar, what would be your day-to-day work, or what would you want to kind of take your kind of experiences and go from here?
You mean like after my graduation?
Yeah, after your graduation. Sorry, that's a simple way to put it.
I think the ideal is always hard to predict the future, but like the ideal kind of position to me is this some kind of research engineer. Right? You can help. Like I know there are a lot of like need in the humanity or social science. They need to build software, but they don't have the expertise for that. And perhaps I can try to bridge like engineering people and social science people or humanity people, so that like I can help them to develop software for them and just like improve the field.
No, I think that's I think that makes a lot of sense. Is there in social science now? And again, you're kind of facilitating social science research via simulation. Is that rare? Is that becoming more common? Like how prevalent is that the research that you're doing? How prevalent is simulation in social science circles?
Social science, social science is a very diverse field. So like different people have different backgrounds. That's just like me. I have physics background, and some other people might have some more technical background. But I think the most popular, people do social simulation, but the most popular language or platform that social scientists use is called NetLogo. Did you know that?
No, I'm not familiar.
This is a terrible language, at least in my opinion. So this it was like an I think it was originated from a thing called Logo, and it was like for educational purposes, like to leaps, and so the whole things are not. It is like for the language itself, it's not great, but because it has some nice visualization tools, and it has like nice integration to documentations, and it has some nice interface, so people tend to use that because people don't have
because it's already there and it's established. But I like the idea of coming back to Kotlin. Of course, we're at Kotlin Conf, but that obviously, as you said, there's a bit of a barrier to entry because of the maybe technical skill or the barriers of the language that it uses, that you kind of have to have some amount of like investment time in there, learning curve to get to the point where you can use the tool. Do you think, would you like to see more kind of the example of Kotlin-based tools? So do you think that would actually be a benefit? Like, because hopefully it would kind of lower that barrier to entry into using simulation?
I think in principle, Kotlin is a pretty nice language for these purposes because it is quite easy and it's quite robust, and the performance is not bad because we are not doing high performance computing that we have to use C. Anyway, like it's tolerable to have like less performant applications in social science. So I think like Kotlin in principle is a good candidate here, but it also has to compete with other like Pythons or Julia and all those fancy things, and at least like in its current state, I don't see it's particularly attractive for people unless they want to work on Android.
Oh, yeah. I mean, so you said you didn't really have much performance, but I mean, for example, like during the keynote, and kind of talk about like Julia and things like that. Obviously, at this conference, they kind of like announced, kind of officially Kotlin notebooks. Do you see that maybe? I mean, would you see something like that, like where it's actually like a full like data science oriented project? Do you think things like that might actually kind of help people to at least kind of maybe explore or adopt Kotlin more? Do you think do you kind of see that as a positive kind of like boost for the visibility of Kotlin as in this area?
I think the notebook and the ecosystem around the notebook is very essential for people to adopt Kotlin. Mm-hmm. That is in my field, because like for example, I talk about it a bit about that in my talk, where like I in my plot for my plot I don't use Kotlin to plot my figures because I have to use some network analysis library, and it doesn't exist in Kotlin ecosystem. So I have to use Python for that. And so I think it would be very helpful if you have the ecosystem there to help people to set up things on the Jupyter Notebook to visualize that and to play around with the sliders and
No, that's very fair. That I think that success, as you said, involves an ecosystem and a community. So I mean, hopefully, especially if people see talks like yours and see like the possibilities in like for example, social science circles and just other regular app software applications, that hopefully people will see, oh hey, like this is something that to participate in. Yeah, so I mean that's amazing. I mean, there's a lot I think that we could talk about in terms of like what you're working on and your research, but we only have so much time, and we really want you to see Adrian's talk. Adrian, is there a place that people go if they're interested in your project to kind of find out more about it and contribute, hopefully?
I think my project is open source, so you can go to my GitHub page to check that, or perhaps give it a star. And the GitHub page is Adrian KHL. And you can just go to, this is my name, and you can just search my name, and the project is pinned like on top of my profile. So.
Awesome. And yeah, is there any other place that you'd like people to find you on the internet other than going to the project itself?
I think you can, if you want, you can search me on LinkedIn or yep. But like I don't use social media too much, so I don't have a
totally
Twitter
fair.
account.
No worries. Yeah. That's very, very reasonable these days, especially. Yeah. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us, Adrian. I really do generally think it's really cool to see again a wide range of different projects and fields and applications for Kotlin outside of like regular old software development. And so yeah, thank you so much for for your time and for also just for being here at KotlinConf to talk about your project.
Okay.
Your research.
Thanks.
Yeah, and thank you all for joining us. That's Kotlin Conversations, and we'll see you later.
Okay, bye.